Hello, hello, how are you? I hope you're keeping well and you're keeping safe. My name is Myron Bura and I am an events consultant and a businesswoman, and I'd like to welcome you to our channel where we discuss events and business. And today we are at Parkin by Radisson, which is in Westlands here in Nairobi, Kenya. And today we are at the Events Terrace, which is an amazing space. If you want to have an outdoor function, a cocktail, this is the place to be, especially during the pandemic where we're all worried about social distancing and everything. So this is the place to be. I'd also like to thank Floral Art for the amazing floral arrangement that she's given us today. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, it is. And we are back today to continue the Resilience series, where we are asking events experts to share with us their stories, like what they did in 2020 to pull through, what they're doing right now, and any word of advice that they would give people in the events industry and also in business. So today, we have an amazing person. I'm sure if you've been watching my videos, you've been hearing me saying thank you to Aquatronics Studio, thank you to Sanjiv and everything. So today we're going to meet the man behind the company, and we're going to have Sanjiv sharing his story with us, and it's going to be amazing. Sanjiv, how does it feel to be in front of the camera?
Pretty much the same.
I thought you'd be a bit nervous, but you look perfectly okay.
No, we've been in both sides of the camera many a times.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, first of all, before we start, thank you so much for agreeing to partner with me in doing these videos. You are actually the main inspiration, especially for this year when we did the What's Next series. So a big thank you to you. So maybe for the sake of those who don't know you and are used to hearing just Sanjiv or Aquatronics, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. So first question's about ourselves. But before we go to that, about you, you said in your own intro, you said you're more events consultant, but you're a businesswoman too.
Yes.
So that's another side of you.
Yes.
You're a businesswoman too.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. So we are business oriented in terms of our company Aquatronics. It's a family business, which I started many years back with my brother and myself. My brother Bharat and I are quite keen on the electronics and audiovisual part of the world, and that's how the business model evolved in our minds, and we took it up many years back. And yes, it's been no looking back.
How long has it been?
We started in 87, so this is good to 35 years almost.
30. Wow, that is true resilience.
Yeah, 30 plus years.
You have seen it all. If I was to talk about events, is there anything you have not seen? That's an interesting
well, it's the snowball effect. I think the events industry is very much a good dramatic example of that. You start with something very small, what we had back in the early 80s to the 90s and the 2000 and then 2010. From 2010 to 2020, it grew in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And even more so from 2015 to 2020. 2020, it was like we went up there, and then it's like,
Exactly. I remember we did, and the reason I like what you've said is because we did 2020 Samantha's Bridal Expo, and I remember
in February, yes.
Yes, in
Yeah.
February, and I was
And in
doing the
very high
trends chat.
spirits.
Yes, and I think you were even in the panel at that on during that weekend, and that expo hall was amazing. People really went all out, and the stands were very beautiful.
Yeah, because I remember that was the first event Samantha was hosting in the new Sarit Expo Hall. And we
Yes.
were
Oh yes.
doing it at the older hall for many years.
Yes.
So that grandness of that new hall was
Yes.
was quite neat, and everyone was looking forward to some amazing New Year's. It was almost the beginning of the new decade, so we were like, okay, we're starting well.
You're starting well. So, what was your first response when this COVID thing hit on the 13th of March?
First response was absolutely interesting. In hindsight, we took it very lightly. We took it very lightly. We didn't estimate in any way at all the havoc it would pose. Yeah, that was the first thing. Because it was like, if it's there, we'll face it. It could be a few weeks here or there, maybe a month, but yeah, things will be back to normal. The government had taken all the necessary precautions. We had locked out countries bringing their flights in. So yes, everything was in place, and we were not anticipating that we would be hit as hard it actually hit us.
As it hit. So then we get to April. It's getting dry, and events are not coming through. What happens then? How was that for you?
Well, the reality really sunk in. It was time to be extremely conscious that, we will have to re-engineer ourselves. We'll have to go back to the drawing board in terms of what can we do to ensure that we don't get derailed off work completely. The digital world, at least in our bit of the event industry, was being able to lean on the requirement of the digital need, because everyone started needing more and more visual services, not for recording purposes or for recording events or anything, but more like meetings, and events would now have to be taken online, so that people would still be able to host a conference, people would still be able to host a meeting, people would still be able to host an event. What would be like, I remember the earlier ones we did in 2020 were school graduations. You didn't want all the students to have no graduation ceremony at all, so we had graduation ceremonies literally online. So at least that helped us, that yes, we had to engineer our thoughts, that how can we do this, and what can we do correct to make sure that events can be hosted online, and not only online but actually going absolutely on a live mode, so that live streaming became more and more need.
How has the uptake been on that, on live? Has it gone, you talk about pivoting or leaning more towards the digital space, where now people are asking for your services for doing online events. Did that pick up immediately, or what? How has it been in your experience?
It didn't pick up immediately in terms of numbers that easily, because even the clientele were not yet absolutely sure of what they wanted to do and what a live stream would entail. That was number one. And number two is, yes, no matter what, everybody was in that space of confusion. Do we want to do an event? Do we not do an event? If we do it, how do we do it? If we do it hybrid, what are the limitations and what are the restrictions? If we do it only online, what can we do, and what will be the what will we achieve by having an online event? So all that flux of thought would still leave an indecisiveness on the client side. Okay. But yes, as we had a few more and more samples came out, people started getting more used to it, and it helped.
Yeah. You told me the first virtual event we did together, you mentioned that you started doing live streaming like 5 years ago. And I was like, are you serious? I mean, I had not heard of it I hadn't heard about doing virtual events until 2020, until COVID. But you were saying you started doing it like 4 or 5 years ago. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's like what you're looking at today. Zoom is so simple and convenient. You can use Zoom, you can use Google Meets, you can use many different platforms to just have a simple conversation. You can even just do a WhatsApp video call and have a meeting. In essence, this is what we call the video conferencing facility, which started way back in the 2000s. It's not something
It's
new,
not new, yeah.
but technology has evolved, and it became easier and now more known. COVID made it more known and forced people to use it, and now they're more so comfortable that if you're even asked to go for a meeting outdoors, you're said, okay, can we not Zoom instead?
Yeah, can we not? Yes, exactly.
Because now you're so comfortable with it, and find that it's productive. Likewise, live streaming. It's not new. If you look at it, there's so many sporting events and so many things you've been watching on television
Yes,
live.
yes.
If you go back and think, there's so many things that you've actually been watching live. It's only that you don't think that it is something you yourself can do right here in our space.
Yes.
If you look at a lot of our own celebratory events, like if we just crossed Madaraka Day on June 1st, go back 15 years. We had OB-WANs from the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and all giving us live streams.
But we didn't see it that way.
But we didn't see it that way.
Yes.
We used to see it restricted to a TV station. But essentially, it's still the same. Only that rather than going over the local airwaves, you're just streaming it on via using the internet protocol systems. But essentially, it's the same.
So
we've been doing this for many years. But now it's becoming more and more popular that you can actually sit and just watch it on your phone.
Cool. So now I know for a fact that when COVID hit, you had just moved offices. I remember you had moved from, where was the previous one? Around Parklands. And now you moved to where we do the live videos right now at New Muthaiga Mall. And did you wish you hadn't? Like, what was your? Did you wish you had not done that move, or how did you handle that?
No, the move was actually even pre-COVID. It was in channel. We moved physically in April. And so we moved over that period of that indecisiveness. So it was a blessing in disguise. That on one hand,
Oh wait,
it was
April
like
in COVID.
yeah. So you're settling in when you're more
Everything
time
is
on your
like-
hands. And yes, so that
that worked
was
for
fine.
you?
It worked. Yeah. And essentially, you have to be positive, no matter what.
Yeah.
The move was already a plan, and we did the move. And yes, it was fine. The energy was positive, and we kept going.
So the biggest question I have for you, which is what I think a lot of people I want to know. A lot of people have come here and have said they had to cut down. They had to give up their stores if they had deco space. We had Dorothy telling us that. We even had Kanye saying she had to give up her office. But what's amazing to me, after having done a lot of videos at your studio, is it's still standing strong. It's still positive. You still have a team. And my question is, how have you done it?
Blessings
Okay, you have to give me more.
of everybody. It's at the end of the day, it's the total spirit. You know, the bit of Kenyans. Everyone comes to everyone's aid.
Okay.
And yes, everyone supported us one way or the other.
Yeah.
So it's as we said, we've been in the industry for many years. So we have built many bridges, and everybody has come and held us to go through this difficult time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you were able to. Did you reach out? Did you get funding? Because I'm thinking about the rent of that place. I mean, I'm sure it's a nice space. I love it. That's why I love shooting there. Was it a challenge in any way?
Everything is a challenge. But essentially, if you take things on absolutely positively and absolutely clear, then people will come through and help you also.
Okay.
There's no beating about the bush. If
So
you're facing a
reaching
crisis,
out, you reach out for
if you're
help.
facing a crisis, you just come out and say, look, this is what the difficulty is, and how are you going to address it? So the trick was to tell people that, no, look, if this is the situation you're in, and you need this time, and this is how you need assistance, and one way or the other, one it's just like a jigsaw puzzle, and one piece falling in place at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that again means relationships. and reaching out for help and all that. So, what lessons have you learned? I think we've had a couple of discussions where you've said we as an events industry will really need to think about how we handle our finances. Could you tell us
How
more?
we have handle
Our finances, our money.
finances of
Yes.
money. The
Yeah.
can of worms.
Yes. Yes.
As you said, you're a businesswoman. The trick lies in understanding the two different aspects. Many people came into the events industry at the latest stage when it had already picked up that snowball effect, and you know, the grass is always green on the other side of the lawn scenario. That,
Absolutely.
everybody in the events industry is doing so well, I don't
they're
need to do a
making
job.
money.
I can make money just by
Yeah.
doing and setting up a few plants and putting a bit of draping. I can become a decorator and I'll get paid. Yeah. So essentially, people who are not trained or are not really cut out for the events industries started coming into the industry looking at a quick buck. But when you look at a quick buck and you start trying to get clientele by doing the easy route out,
I call it monkey see, monkey do.
yeah, reduce rates.
Yes.
Now, when that equilibrium is tipped into that point, you come to a point that you are just having finances on a hand-to-mouth scenario. It's in, out, and you're making a few shillings for some food on the table. But you're never growing
That's true.
because you're never having any finances or any money to be able to put aside or to be able to even reinvest in business.
You're not even
So
looking
you're
at
not
the
even
long
growing.
term.
Yeah, so you're not thinking long term. Now, when that happens and something like COVID hits you, it hits you harder because within a week or a month or a few months, you're out of pocket because you had nothing to lean back on. You had not built bridges or you'd not even been able to do anything. But for us, as I said, it's very, very lucky, and yes, we have the blessings of all the positive energy around us that over the many years, at least we had to build ourselves to a point that we have goodwill and that you can stand strong and say, okay, we are hit hard, but we are here to see this through. And holding hands with everybody, you see it through. But if you have been cutting yourself so tight, then it comes to a point that you have nothing at all left for yourselves. So you need to learn from this, no matter how the challenge is. Learn from this challenge and let's grow from it. Start thinking that if you need to sit with a spreadsheet, what is your insurance money you are adding on? That what are you going to do that if you don't have work for the next 3 months, where is the money going to come from?
Ooh, Sanjiv, oh my goodness, I almost feel like I'm talking to a finance coach. Expound. I know you did accounts.
Yeah, but it's essentially just that yes, there is always a certain amount of money that you should think of, not as that per se at that job, but in the long term. So you need to spread out your costings and have a certain amount that you can even put aside. It may not have to be millions, but every penny counts.
Yes.
Even if you put a few pennies aside, every day, one day it'll come to help.
Yeah. I think that's what I think you've said. The industry, I'll be very honest, we've been undercutting for a while. And we've been saying if someone can give you, like, for example, this floral arrangement, if someone is, let's say, Floral Art is giving it to people at 3,500, someone else will come and say 2,000. And at that point, they're thinking, I'll get the job because I'm way cheaper by 1,500. And if you've got 50 centerpieces, they're looking at it and say, oh, I've made my money. That's 75,000, as opposed to the market rate, which is probably 3,500. But what they don't know is that probably someone like Floral Art, Lillian has put in how much is going to put aside, how much is going to cover this, and how much is going to cover that. So
yeah, it's essentially that. What you know. Do you look at it as a business? Do you look at it as a one-off thing? Do you look at it as a short term? Do you look at it as long term? That's where all the different parameters lie. But if you're looking at it in the short term and then something like COVID hits you, then well,
you're hit.
That's what you asked for and that's what you got.
Yeah.
But if you've been thinking of it in the long term, then...
So I'm hearing, for those who are in this for the long term, they're probably thinking ahead. And that's probably why pricing is a very important discussion to have, whereby if you undercut, you are literally doing yourself an injustice.
Always. It's yourself you're hitting.
Is there another?
It's to the benefit of the client.
It's the benefit.
The client walks away with the best deal possible,
and you are just left
it's you.
hanging dry.
It's you who's out of pocket.
What do you think needs to change?
It's difficult to now just change instantly, but at least have that thought process in mind. That always think ahead. Think of giving added value rather than undercosting. Right? If you look at the food industry, for example, they will not cut the price of a pizza to half. Right?
Okay, yes.
But they'll tell you you'll get 2 for 1.
Yes. Okay.
Or pay for a small pizza and get a large pizza instead.
Yes.
So the added value. So they're still maintaining that certain threshold and giving a little more.
Yes.
But in our industry, we, instead of giving added value, will say, no, cut cost. So essentially, I think we need to learn that come up with a plan that, look, let's have a base rate. And if you need to discount that base rate in any way, rather than discount the rate, add a bit of value to it in terms of whatever your bit of service is. Add a little bit more of service element at that rate, rather than take the rate lower than the base. That perhaps might help. It's not open and shut case. I think everything has to have its gray area, but at least that might help if we take that view.
If you take that view, exactly. And yes, I think it was Cindy 2 weeks ago. She was talking about value will never go out of fashion. If you keep giving value, providing value, you're better off providing that value and still remaining at the same rate as opposed to coming down. Question: what other lessons have you taken from this period, pandemic season?
Change is the changeless law. Everything keeps changing. It's all in flux. So when we get into our comfort zones, things like this really give us a good solid nudge. Like this one has literally thrown us off the cliff. and if you didn't have a parachute, if you didn't have a parachute, then we are seeing scenarios of people having shut down and all that. But those who had a parachute are kind of like just trying to look for a soft landing. But essentially, yes, it's the biggest learning is that be ready for change all the time.
Be ready for change.
Sometimes change takes longer, but any given time, something or the other happens.
You've been in this industry for 35 years, and you've seen. I don't think there's anything you've not seen. Do you think our industry, the events industry, needed this nudge? Do you think, not needed, but do you think it's done us some good? Maybe taken us back to the, I don't know. What's
taken
your
us
thought?
all back to the drawing board. I think it's taken the whole society across the globe back to the drawing board in many ways that we think. And now it's like come to a point that yes, you need to understand that yes, with this change, hybrid events are here to stay. Because now people have come to understand that they can do things hybrid. So we need to already start thinking that 6 months down the road, even with the management of COVID, probably next year you'll have events, but you may never have the events what you used to have before, because now there is a new thought line.
Yeah.
So even people like yourselves who are actually into the event and organizing will probably say, okay, dear client, you want to have an event with 10,000 guests? Yes, but did you know there's the hybrid function? You can maybe do it with 2,000 guests and the other 8,000, instead now 20,000 can be online.
Again,
so now everybody will start thinking differently.
Yeah, going with the flow, going the change, and finding out how to make it work for you, as opposed to wishing, I think it was Alvin was saying, the good old days when we used to have many, many, many people.
No, it's like it's forced us to understand. Like if you look at Safaricom has just come up with now their new bit of a digital platform for the artist industry, base. Yes, model along other things which are happening across the world. But that's it, that people will need to think differently. Now, artists and people who are finding it difficult to find physical markets have a global market by going digital. So if they take on a platform like Base, they will see differently. So yeah, everyone has to think, and people like us in the visual industry can see more opportunities if
for
we
you,
actually
yes.
look differently. So yeah, it may not be a physical event, but now the artist still needs recording, the artist still needs technical support, and if he can get a good production out online, there's a market out for his work.
I'm liking that, thinking
So we need to
differently.
think positively.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a problem. The biggest challenge is, what do you do about bills of today? While you're waiting for all these things to
To
evolve
evolve.
and come through, what do you do about the bills of today and tomorrow? Those are the challenges. So I think that's where the help comes in, that everybody has to understand, everybody has to bridge each other, everybody has to find ways and means to hold hands and see that pole pole, we all cross this difficult river to better times. But again, from there, remember that when we get into the better times, who held your hands
Who held you? Exactly.
in this difficult time? So
Exactly.
maintain
Yes.
that relationship. Don't take your ego level up there when you hit it up.
Maintain. Yeah. Keep that
Learn,
relationship
yes,
going, and don't
exactly.
forget the
And
people who
if
helped you.
somebody helped you today, remember that if you help somebody tomorrow,
Yes.
the cycle goes on.
The cycle goes on.
It's more about giving than taking.
So what I'm learning from you is your relationships. Reach out for help. Managing your spreadsheet better. Another word for finances. Is there any other thing that you would suggest?
That's
Like,
it.
what pulled you?
That's
Those are the things that pulled you through this season.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still pulling us through, because it's still hard. It's still hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
In fact, the second lockdown, just what we just went over, March, April, was even worse, because it was like all of a sudden we had a bad phase, and it had a longer bad phase, and it carried on, and then come November, December, Jan, it was like,
Things
okay, now
open
it's
up.
gonna be behind us, things
Yeah.
are getting better.
Yeah.
And come March, it was oh, and now we're being told July might be another scenario again. So you have to be ready for
Oh
anything.
my gosh, Sanjiv, you're the second person telling me that today.
Yeah, so you have to be
Are
ready.
you
Now it's simple.
serious?
Come March last year, we were like, okay, it's here and we'll manage. But now you're ready for it. That
July.
come July, it might be a shutdown. You just don't know. So we all have to maintain what the Ministry of Health is issuing as very strong guidelines. It's our own safety, and we
Yeah.
need to take it seriously. That each individual is responsible.
Yeah.
If you all throw caution to the winds,
It's not going to help anyone.
then we're going to puncture parachutes.
Wow. Wow. So, yeah. So July might be another.
Yeah.
And just be ready. I guess it goes to what you're saying. Change is inevitable.
Yes.
Just be prepared for the change all the time. So, what would you? You're quite successful as far as I'm concerned, and you've been in this, for someone to be in an industry for 35 years. That there is something that you're doing right, and you've gone with a change, and I can see that indeed you have changed according to the changes that have been transpiring in the industry. My question to you is, what makes Sanjiv? I know that's like
what makes an individual.
what makes Sanjiv go through these changes the way he does? What attributes? What does someone need? If someone is watching right now, especially we've got now that hybrid is a type of virtual event. The fact that it's a new thing, and it's allowed many people to now start saying, I can get a camera. For some reason, I think videographers and photographers, I don't think they have it as hard as, let's say, the decorators who have a lot of things in the store, because it was easier for them to pivot to the virtual sense. Someone is at home and they want to grow, and it's like, I've only been in the industry for 3 years or 5 years. This guy has been there for 35. What's the secret? If there is a secret, like, what would you say they need to do, especially the younger generation? Yeah. I included. I would love to be in business
In
for
our
35
times,
years.
when we started earlier back, can I say that life was relevantly slower? Change was there. We saw the analog age, and now we're in the absolute digital age. So it's not that we have not been through changes. It's like the industrial revolution in the earlier years, and now the digital revolution. Everything is changing so fast. So yes, we went through very interesting changes, but we went through them with a little bit of a slower time frame. Now things change at a faster speed. So what I would advise the younger generation is same. Remember that no matter what you do, the time span of you being able to turn around your investment or your expertise is even quicker. You need to be learning on your feet. Every day there's something new. Even today I'm learning.
Yeah.
Every day is a learning experience. So the day you decide to say, no, I know it all, you're starting to build your own coffin. So keep learning every day. And remember that whatever you put in has a very short time span in terms of value. If you invest in equipment today,
Yes.
that equipment will probably be less than half its value in 1 year. In the earlier years, if I invest, that equipment would be probably of a similar value for 3 to 5 years. If I were to put it in figures, for example, just as an example, if somebody were to invest in a camera today for 100,000 shillings, that camera is worth 50,000 1 year down the road. Because technology is moving so fast.
And it's changing quick.
It's changing quickly. So you have to plan for that depreciation faster. You see? If on the tax elements, you allowed 35% depreciation for such equipment. Why? Because it depreciates very fast. So you need to keep that in mind. So equipment is not an investment. Equipment is actually a cost. And you need to spread that cost out over the period you feel that it will be valuable to you. If you feel you buy a camera for 100,000 today, after a year, you'll get 50,000 for it. So 50,000 is a direct cost. So you should take that over 10 months. So 10 months, 5,000
every month
is a cost.
It's a cost.
Now, when you start thinking like this, that's when your actual fee to your client starts making sense.
No, wow.
The fee to your client is not your fare and your meal for the day and your learning, but everything adds up. Because after a year, you'll again need another 50,000 plus the 50 you'll get, and probably technology will charge you more. You'll need money again to buy the next bit. Where are you going to get that money from? If you've not been growing, you shoot yourself in the foot.
That is profound.
Yeah. So our bit was simple, that as we kept going over time, we were fortunate that we were able to add back value to our business and keep growing from it. And that's what managed to pull us through this difficult time also. That we were able to keep on going back and try and evolve and ride on what we had to change and implement ourselves in such a way that we could add on a few things and we could do different things. We could live stream and all that. But otherwise it would be like, okay, if there's no event, what do we do?
I guess again, I'm still hearing the same thing, which is you really need to think about how you price your service and how you price your product. It's not just about here and now.
Even, you can't just say that that's it and that's it. If somebody has to price low, yes, he has to price low. But always keep it in mind that you're pricing low for this situation, which is today. But try and find a way to evolve that situation and change it at the next opportunity. Don't forget it.
Yeah. Oh wow, that is so profound. As we finalize and we continue. Sorry, I know you were at work. As we finalize, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting that. I've gotten another lesson on pricing and how you're working on your spreadsheet and thinking long term has actually helped you to pull through, and that is that's advice that everyone should take. What would your parting shot be? And I normally tell people, look to that camera, and since it's your camera, you can look at it and say, what's your parting shot to someone in business, to someone in the events industry at this very moment?
Stay together. Just stay together. If we all bridge together, if we all work together, if we keep our teamwork strong, then we will move forward. Nobody can do nothing alone. Nobody can do nothing alone. Work together. As long as we keep working together, we'll grow.
Wow, thank you. You heard it. Stay together, work together. And thank you so much for being with us today. Sanjiv, thank you for giving us. I mean, you've shared your story, but you've also given us a lot of advice and solid advice for that matter. So thank you so much for sharing that. A big thank you again to Sanjiv and his team at Aquatronics for doing all our video productions on this channel. Thank you so much to Parkin Radisson for partnering with us and allowing us to have our interviews here. And a big thank you to Floral Art for the amazing floral arrangements. Thank you so much for joining us. And as Sanjiv said, let's stay together. God bless, and we see you next week.